my name is Linda Aronson from Unleashed to Learn, and we're here today with Megan Lister. Thank you so much for the time,
Absolutely.
Your expertise. And she is the Director of Innovation Programs with the Center for Community Engagement at Amherst College. And today we're going to be talking about how entrepreneurship has made its way into education, and today we'll be specifically focusing on higher education. So I'd like to start, Megan, with your story about
Sure.
how it is that maybe starting in college or maybe before that, how you became interested in entrepreneurship. And I know you've done mentoring and advising and maybe training, and now you're in this position. So you want to just tell us about how you arrived here?
Sure. So maybe my early beginnings, my mom always refers to me as her project girl, meaning that I always had a million projects going on. The roller skate vegetable stand.
Oh, wow.
The community newsletter talking about thistle control and the elk herd that roamed through. I grew up in Colorado.
Oh, wow.
So I think I've always been attracted to projects and to doing things that where I got to put things into practice and
Yes.
and also work with other people. I loved getting the opportunity to work with other people. And so so I think that's kind of where that entrepreneurial mindset started. And then I went to Hampshire College for my undergraduate education, and very much experiential, very much entrepreneurship in a way, in the sense of really having to think through the design of your own curriculum, thinking about what you're hoping to get out of it.
It seems to me that entrepreneurship is getting a lot of attention.
Yes.
And it's making its way into education, secondary as well as higher education. And it seems to be particularly attractive to what we think of as the millennials, those that are in their now 20s and 30s.
Right.
So what is your perspective about that in terms of what is it about entrepreneurship that attracts them in terms of either their values or the way they want to work in the world or what they want to do in the world? What's your perspective about that?
I think there's a number of things. I mean, I think first of all, entrepreneurship is exciting. It's very action oriented. It's very fast paced, and it's an exciting world to be in. And as more and more people are paying attention to the entrepreneurial sector, whether it's business or social, I think the term is starting to resonate with a broader group of people. The nature of work is changing significantly. We're no longer going and taking a job out of college that we're going to have for 20 or 30 years. I think a lot of students are starting to think about their career path in a really different way. And so I think entrepreneurship lends itself to having a lot of control over your career path, feeling like you get to shape it the way that you want to shape it. And it also just embodies that flexibility that I think a lot of millennials are starting to think about, both out of desire, but also through necessity as our work world changes.
So that's kind of a nice segue into looking at how entrepreneurship studies have made its way or is making its way into higher education. And how do you see that connecting with more academic model of learning?
One of the key questions there is, how are we defining entrepreneurship? What does that mean?
Absolutely.
And I think that for many years, entrepreneurship has lived in sort of the business world or the business sector, and that's how people associate it with starting businesses.
Right.
So I think, when talking about how entrepreneurship intersects with education, whether it's higher ed or secondary or elementary education, it's really thinking about, what do we mean when we talk about entrepreneurship? And I think there's a lot of value in broadening the definition to sort of its root, which was, to undertake, someone who was undertaking something. And so thinking about, how do we encourage students to build mindsets and skill sets that allow them to undertake something, to actualize their passions and find a way to make it real in the world. And to do that in partnership with others, and to think about the impact of their work on communities and their peers, and whatever that might be.
I have come to see that experiential learning is a nice foundation and segue into entrepreneurship. How do you see that working? Do you think that the call for greater entrepreneurial skills will by naturally call for more experiential approaches to learning? How does that work, do you think?
Well, so to refer back to the interterm course that you mentioned, in that course we partnered with 2 local social enterprises to work on sort of real-time, real-world challenges that they were facing, thinking about how can we address these. And I think that having those concrete projects and doing project-based learning like you do when you're an experiential learner,
right?
It lends itself well to the intersection between your knowledge base, what you know, how you learn, how you gather new information, with how you're going to apply those things. And so I think that the experiential education model is really valuable.
From your experience and perspective, how do you see this entrepreneurial age, I like to term it as, is a positive sign in our world today?
Oh gosh. Well, I think that for when we cultivate that entrepreneurial mindset, all the things that we've been talking about, and I think that encompasses things like, being creative and being flexible, not being married to one way of doing something, but, being willing to move around it and change your mind, to being resourceful, to being willing to take a risk, but knowing how to be thoughtful about risk taking, thinking about, what, both to yourself and to others, what is a part of this risk. I think that one of the challenges with entrepreneurship is that it's sometimes viewed as sort of a lone wolf sort of undertaking.
That's a really good point.
That you do it by yourself, and that it's the lone entrepreneur going out and doing their thing. When in actuality, any entrepreneur succeeds because of their network. It succeeds because of the people who support them and care about what they're doing and build them up and help carry them forward. And so I think that when we are mindful of that element of entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial activity and entrepreneurial action, we start building skills around that way of interacting as well. It's not just about, well, I'm going to go out and implement my idea. It's about, let me think about what's needed. What is the challenge? What is the problem that I'm seeking to engage? And what do I need to understand about that? And who do I need to know who is involved in that challenge or would be affected by that challenge? And how do I become a good partner to those individuals as well?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Megan. This has been wonderful.
Thank you.
We very much appreciate it.